Okay, here we go, everyone. Daniel Ramsey here with MyOutDesk. I'm super excited because today a good friend of mine, Debbie, is here. And it's hard to introduce somebody that has this much experience, but let me break it down for you. Debbie has done 70,000 coaching calls in her career. She's been in the business basically forever, closing a bunch of real estate in her early years, transitioning to running some of the largest coaching platforms out there. And then 4 or 5 years ago, she started her own company called Excellium. Debbie DeGrode's Excellium. It's a cool name, actually, by the way. And we're just lucky to have her today. We are doing Listing Languages 2.0. Right? And here's why. Here's the mindset. At MyOutDesk, we want to help you guys be successful. Like, bottom line, that's what this is about. And right now it's March, and next month, spring, buying, selling, 70% of all business is going to happen over the next 4 months. And so we are going to go deep on mindset. We're going to go deep on kind of some strategies, and we've got the best of the best here to help us do that. So welcome, Debbie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I love this topic. It's a favorite. So we'll have some fun today.
Okay, good. So let's start and just tell the audience who you are, what you guys do. One thing that I really appreciate is how you guys customize coaching directly for the clients, and you do what we would call this a business overhaul. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. And of course, we don't want to take too much time with the commercial here because we want to get right to the content. So I'll just say right up front, everyone, if you'd like to visit our website, excellium.com, EXCELLEUM, we have a lot of free resources there. So they're welcome to go there. I mean, we've got free reports on selling luxury and, we're building teams and all sorts of things. So guys, please feel free to go there and get to know us a little bit better. Where I feel we really shine in the coaching space is, Daniel, as you know, the coaches and I are actually from the street, so to speak. Like, we all have lots of experience. My average coach has anywhere from 25 to 40 years of industry experience, where some of the coaching out there is kind of by the book.
Yeah.
Everything we do is really customized around the client's personality, their market, and their strengths. And that business overhaul, what we find is our average client can potentially achieve 25 to 50% growth in their business in their first year of coaching. And the reason they do that is we go first to where they're strong.
Right.
Look at where their business is coming from, do that business overhaul, close the gaps. And no matter how good they are, there are always gaps.
Right.
And we make sure they've got 3 to 5 key methods of creating listings. Buyers are great. We encourage everyone, fine, sell your buyers. But where you have terrific listings, the buyers will come, right? So
Awesome. Well, and that's the point of today. So if you listen, Debbie is going to give away Listing 2.0 scripts. So it's like, I'm not even sure what that is. Okay. But you're going to tell us, like, 2.0, what does this mean exactly? And what is somebody going to get by watching this and then downloading our free giveaway?
Well, to start us off with, some of these people out here probably have been in the business a very long time.
Yep.
And that's, as I said to you, our average coaching client is about 14.5 years in the business. So anyone who's been in the business 10 years or more, I think we could all agree today's seller is not at all like the seller of days ago, days gone by. Much more aware, savvy. They can Google information. They can get data, cocky, if I might say, right?
So, they know more than us, right? I mean, we're a real estate broker. We sell hundreds of homes, but you go there and they're like, I'm going to tell you how to do your job, right?
Do your job. So if you think about some of the scripting that's out there for going out on these listing appointments and converting these listings, it is 40 years old or more.
Right.
So today's consumer is absolutely not responding to those old scripts.
Right.
One of the things at Excellium, we like to be very responsive to the market because, you know, my husband, my daughter, they're actively selling. We're a real estate family, so we change and adapt to the market. Listing Language 2.0 is really the today's way of connecting with that seller effectively.
Yeah, and what's cool is like your husband and like this is what's cool about Debbie. We gotta hang out in Florida. She's, you know, really is in the business. Like I am, like a lot of our, you know, everybody in the audience, we are in the real estate game every single day. So your husband's in it, your daughter's in it, your other daughter works for the coaching company, and so it's a beautiful thing. You guys are definitely a real estate company. Okay, so Listing Language 2.0 is the free gift for joining. And it's like the upgraded version of what scripts should be today for closing sellers. And we're gonna dive into like some strategies as we go through this about the way to actually, you know, win the listing at the table. Again, this is a mindset conversation. We're getting ready for spring. And so Debbie and I are trying to help you guys in just getting ready for 70% of your revenue being generated over the next 4 months. I mean, that's the reality of this game, right? So let's jump in. Like, what are the tools that you suggest people, you know, use to get to the table, meaning to even get in the house? Like, what are some of the strategies that you love?
Well, and that's the thing, because I'll have great agents say to me, I'm really good at the table, but I'm just not getting to the table enough.
Okay.
So those appointments are harder to get. And the things that we suggest, which happen to be also things that your team can be very supportive in, are things like really working their database effectively, efficiently, you know, really working that like a machine. I also find that 70% of agents' business comes from lead follow-up, but they may not be scrubbing and nurturing their leads the way that they should be.
Okay, let's break those two down, because those two are huge. Own your database and play in that database and be active in it. Like talk to us about that. Like what's important? Like how would I connect? You know, I talked to an agent the other day. He's like, I've got 800 people in my database, and I asked the question, when's the last time you called them?
Right.
So give us some strategies to kind of get in touch with people, reconnect with them, especially right now, because everybody that's thinking about selling is thinking about it right now.
Right. And so because most of the agents I meet tell me that most of their listings come from people they know, that's why our gift that we're giving away today is the script on how to engage with the people they know in a way that's gracious and helpful, but also direct enough, because they often say, keep me in mind. Well, that does not create a referral, right?
Yeah, right.
So that's why we thought that would be an important script to give away. And they can go to my website, and there is a free report there, how to triple your database repeat and referral business, which will give them more than we can do right now. But just a quick right now. Ideally, I would like to see them taking their past clients, their sphere of influence, those quality contacts, physically mailing to them every month.
Right.
An item of value that sets them apart as the wise advisor. So sending a postcard that says, time to change your clock, waste of money.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares, and it goes in the trash. Happy Mother's Day. Nobody cares. So they really need to own that space of the wise advisor. So a mail piece going out, e-blasts are great, and they can provide a variety of content. Doesn't all have to be hard sell about real estate. Once a week is not too much for an e-blast. They can attach a video. They can attach a report. Then if we take a look at some of the tools that they could use, like a Sly broadcast, to maybe broadcast a message quarterly.
Right.
Platform to text quarterly. Of course, I want them to call them, and I ask them to commit to 5 a day, you know, reaching out to 5 per day, which is where that script that we're going to give them is going to come in handy. Now, where this all breaks down, though, which is where I know your team is helpful.
Yeah.
They maybe don't have a full-time admin or don't have an admin at all. And they say, I can't get it organized. I can't get it in a CRM. I can't set up my technology or my system. and I really can't afford, or have the time to train an admin. And that's then where we often refer them to you. And then your team at a super reasonable cost steps in, gets it all together for them, and they can just run the machine.
Yeah, well, and I was a good friend of mine who happens to be in California, just signed up actually, and I've known this guy for, I don't know, 10 years or something. He's a really great guy, but he's a real estate broker, and he is using an old Brian Buffini's Referral Maker, which is a great CRM for referrals, but it doesn't do a lot for buyers, and it doesn't do a lot for sellers who. Right. And so, his biggest outcome for hiring us was just simply getting a new CRM in place and starting to cultivate, accountability on his team. That was a big deal because he's got 4 agents, a full-time admin, and himself, and he goes on the majority of the listings, and the 4 agents, he's helping those agents build a business like his, which is primarily referral based. But, what's missing is a lead comes in, they didn't have a measurement of whether or not it converted or didn't convert. And that was I'm like, well, how do you know if you're getting a return on your investment? How do you, and so our big outcome for him is just helping him develop a CRM where he can hold his agents accountable, and that's a simple thing,
It's simple for your team. It's not simple for most of the agents. And I always tell them 70% of your business will come from your lead follow-up.
Yeah.
That's often the most neglected piece. And then if you do have team members, which we coach a lot of big teams, some people will be more efficient than others. And you got to know, who do you need to train or who do you need to fire?
Right.
It's not converting. So yeah.
Okay. So if you're looking and you like any of this, if you go to our website, myoutdesk.com/Debbie, like you got your own landing page, Debbie.
Wow.
Yeah, very cool, huh? And we're going to give away that script. And we're going to talk a little bit about open house and prospecting, what your thoughts are around those two kind of, I think, major categories in getting business for this summer and spring coming up. So what are some of your thoughts around that you would add value to our audience? And if you're listening and you have questions, Debbie's here. She loves questions, right?
Love it.
Yeah, love it. Yeah. So I forgot in the beginning to say, but this is better when it's interactive. So if you had some questions about what she does in terms of coaching, how to actually get more people, get to more people's tables, and then how to close them, which we're going to talk about towards the end of this, just jump in and
absolutely
play on Facebook.
Well, and I know there's so much to cover in a short amount of time. So on the getting to the table, the prospecting, again, in the coaching, we know that certain personality styles will do great at certain things and not so great at others.
Sure.
And so if you embrace what you're good at, so they're welcome to go to my website under free resources, take the DISC assessment. They'll get their report back right away. We look at that in coaching with them. They're welcome to request when they're there a strategy conversation with one of my coaches to interpret that report, because you need to know yourself, what you're good at, and then really define what are my 3 to 5 methods of going after listings. So let's say method number 1 is their database, right? And let's say that method number 2 is, I want to take my open house and I want to find another listing in the neighborhood. And that's where we're really encouraging clients right now. Don't just take your listing on Monday and throw it on the market because it's going to have 25 offers by Tuesday.
Right.
Done. Give yourself and your seller an opportunity to have that really powerful open house at the end of that weekend. So whatever paperwork the board requires or your broker requires, however you have to do it, and talk to that seller about, give me a week or even give me 2 weeks to create a pre-launch, to do marketing, the Facebook ads, and to invite the neighbors. And what some of our clients are finding valuable is a Thursday evening little wine and cheese sneak preview for the neighbors.
Yep.
Because sure, we want open house to get buyers, but we also want open house to get another seller. So
Right.
most of our clients are really looking at that being we call it open house on steroids plan.
Yeah.
Got database, they've maybe got open house. Obviously, some are buying online leads. So that goes back to your follow-up campaigns and the tracking. Other big sources really would be in a lot of the communities, their social involvement, their networking, geographic farming.
Right.
And we're very strong in helping them choose a farm. And I would really encourage them, be careful and strategic about that choice, or they may waste a lot of money. And
Sure.
on my website, we do have a free report there for them, choosing, working, and dominating a geo farm. That's going to give them some helpful tools also.
Yeah, and the challenge around all of these things are, when you choose a farm, you got to choose one without a stiff competition, like all of those things. It's really important that you're strategic.
Turnover, competitor, demographic
Right.
of the farm to market appropriately to them. And then again, the consistency of the machine.
Right.
If you're not frequent enough, if you're not on top of that, you're probably actually wasting your money and just shouldn't even do farming at all.
Yeah. Okay. So here's a good one. Brandon asks a question, and thank you, Brandon. I love this question. It's actually what I love about it is you can give yourself a pay raise that can be 2 times what you're currently getting by just doing this strategy. And Debbie is probably the best person to answer this question. His question was, what's a good way to raise the price range you list in? I am in an area where the median price is 197, and I tend to be more under it, around 150,000. I would like to be in the 200 to 300. Brandon wants to move to a higher end market.
Okay.
We're like a god in this world. So what do you think?
Okay, so I'm gonna go to the top of the heap here as an example, but we can translate that into your market. One of our great clients, Ernie Carswell. Ernie is the real estate agent for people like Katy Perry, that big nun thing going on. Ernie is right in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Carrie Fergie, Kerry Washington, Regis Philbin, I mean, you name it. Ernie's in Beverly Hills, has these fabulous clients. Well, Ernie shared with me that 25 years ago, when he came to that market and he didn't know anyone, and he didn't have any high-end listings, the first thing he did, Brandon, is he went out and he previewed property excessively. He didn't just go out and look at houses, but he went on the broker tours and he would interview the broker, the agent. Why is this home fabulous and what's unique about it? And he carries around this little leather journal and he wrote all his notes about that. But then as he would be out at social gatherings, connections, meeting people, he would talk about it like, oh my gosh, you won't believe it. I looked at Barbara Streisand's house. Do you know the toilet is actually made of gold? And people are like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah.
So he became known as the guy doing high end before he was the guy. So what has to come first is product knowledge. Because if you're going to move into that higher end, even if that's just bumping your price $100,000 or $50,000, you got to know that product. You got to talk like the expert, but also it will give you more confidence, right? And if you're choosing a geographic farm, then why not choose one? And I'm not talking about going to ultra luxury, but why not choose one that's just a little bit higher than your normal price point? Staying in that sweet spot, potentially, where it still sells well, there's still turn, because the postcard costs the same here or here, right? But it's just a greater ROI. So I think just bumping that up a bit. Now, best strategy of all, when you go into higher end, whatever that translates into, guys, in your market, you will always find less competition for those expired listings, because a lot of the agents hang out in the low to mid because they're comfortable there. The turn is fast. It's not as tough to win them. So when you go up a bit, and those are a little tougher to get, there's a little bit less competition. Many of our great agents that do high end and even ultra luxury, that's how they got their foot in the door. It doesn't require extensive marketing dollars. And there's that old saying, it's better off to be the firstborn, the second wife, and the second or third agent on a high-end listing. So there's a saying, hang out in the neighborhood where you want to live. And that's why I'm, really encourage Brandon to start with spending more time working in those areas and not get too attached. If he goes and knocks the door of an expired and they don't respond, whatever, go to the next one, right? And just start getting into that market. Maybe budgeting 10, 20% of his week.
Gotcha. So, and just to break that down, I think you said it, but you didn't like drive it home. The reason Ernie went to all those high-end things was to feel how those people were talking and what they said. And like, he had to be somebody new. And so Brandon, I think you need to be the guy at 300,000 or 400,000.
Actually, Daniel, that's a great point, because that's not what I meant, but it's a good reason. And I'm sure that happened where he absorbed the style and maybe even identified people who he wanted to emulate and be like. But the big purpose, which then became a big benefit, was learning those neighborhoods, learning that architecture, learning how to demonstrate and talk about those properties and why one neighborhood, we're here in the Newport Beach area. So if you're in a certain waterfront location, it's not all the same, because certain waterfront has deep boat acts, like big boats can be there.
Right.
Others, sailboats can't go because they have to get under the bridge. And so there's all those nuances that you wouldn't know that if you didn't get in with experts who explain that to you. But your point's good.
Well, and the expireds is a huge one. We have a lot of virtual professionals that are pounding the phones for agents. And what always surprises me when I'm doing a consultation with people is that they never go back 2 or 3 years. And in this market, it's 2018, you should go back to 2014, look at every single property that expired, and then throw them into a call system, and then just start calling those people because 3-4 years ago prices were different. A good friend of mine just sold a house and literally got 30% more than the listing price, and they were aggressively pricing their house. And so it was like, they were going to sell it for 500 and instead they got 7, and it was like, what?
It's insane. And I know what people will say. They're going to say, but there's lots of competition for these. Yes, within the first week or so, but then it just drops off.
Goes away.
And there's a stat that I've read over and over, and I feel like it's very true, that 90% of expireds will relist within 18 months.
Yeah.
Most agents only hit them in that first week. Now, they will say also, too, as they're listening to this, but it's really hard to get the phone numbers. Yes, then go to the door. Even our people in luxury markets like Newport Beach are going to the door. Because very few people will do that. If they make that eye-to-eye connection, it's kind of easy to get in there and at least talk to them.
Yeah, I love that. And in fact, even the open house, you were talking about the open house. I think one of the most powerful things you can do from an open house perspective is have your agents and you door knock to let the neighbors know about the wine and cheese on Thursday. And I'm guilty of every single open house in my neighborhood I go to because I'm just curious, and so I think it's really a powerful thought process to just go to the door, like you're saying.
Yeah, because they can mail to them, and in certain markets that works, in most it does not.
Right. What would you give somebody if you went to the door? What's your standard?
Well, actually, at Excellium, we have resources for our clients. One of the guides, a consumer guide, is why your home didn't sell: ineffective marketing. Because they don't want to hear that it's price. Now, we do say to them, price is part of marketing, but it is not the only piece of it.
Right.
And in fact, Daniel, on March 27th, if anyone is near or can get to Orange County, we have a marketing and listing summit, a full day event. And I'm bringing in my marketing expert, and we're going to talk a lot about what do they take to the door. And they can, I think they go to www.marketingandlistingsummit.com or go to our website and they'll see it. And it's a very low cost to attend because I'm just looking to cover cost of the venue and get this help out there to them. So, but we'll talk more about that. But it's not what we want to give them about who we are, but what we want to give them about what they need answers for.
Gotcha.
Enter the conversation in their mind.
Yep, perfect. Okay, cool. Let's jump into, those are some quick, good strategies. Thanks, Debbie, for sharing that to get people to the table. But now let's talk about the table. We've had a couple webinars with some amazing real estate brokers and agents. And one in particular has this offer that I was like, I'm floored by. And then I saw a post in one of the Facebook groups, and Debbie is going to talk to us a little bit about that strategy of actually winning the listing. And everything that we're talking about today is, generating revenue, right? More listings, because listings pay the bills. Exactly. So the challenge that they had was they went into a listing. And the seller said the previous agent was willing to sell my house for free if I would buy with them my next one. Will you do that? Okay. So I'm curious, what's your responses? How do you overcome price? And then we're going to talk about seller pack too. Okay, so let's rock and roll. What are your thoughts, Debbie?
Well, so first of all, we should say right up front that we don't price fix. Commission is negotiable by law. And yet you do have the right to earn what you deserve and what you feel you're worth. One of the things we say always to groups that we work with and agents we coach is, number one, stop volunteering to cut. See, this is what most of them do. And that's what that agent right there that you were just talking about went in and said, hey, if you do this with me, I'll do this for free. I tell our agents, don't do that. No matter how tempting it is, make them ask you, right? But it goes back to they're going to hold the line on commission better if they're really well prepared for that appointment. So we encourage them to upgrade their presentation, polish what they take to the table. We look at all those materials with them and then have their whole MO, their whole approach dialed in and ready. I don't believe every word has to be scripted like a robot, but there should be a framework. We were talking before we started about the book, The E-Myth by Michael.
Right.
Michael talks about if you don't have a predictable sales process, you won't have predictable results. So we could talk all day about objection handlers, but if they don't do all of this part right to get there, it's going to be tough to win the commission. So be knowledgeable, be powerful, have great tools, have a great presentation of how you're going to be the champion of value for that seller. Definitely drill, practice, and rehearse multiple ways to handle that. And on my website, there is a free report, Holding the Line on Commission.
Right.
So go grab that. But my answer to that kind of situation would probably be, just as you're, catching me on the fly here, would be, well, Mr. Seller, if I were you, I would probably find that interesting as well. Because, see, I always want to stay in rapport. I don't want to be angry, insulted, or feel tension because it will break that rapport with that seller, right? And then I'm stuck. So I can see why you would bring that up. Here's something to think about. I wonder, so when he brought that up, how hard did how did that happen? Did you have to grind on him to get him to do that? And you know what they usually say? Oh, no.
He just offered it.
Yeah, he just offered.
Right.
That's really interesting. And see, this is one that they've heard before, but it's how you set it up. Don't just say, well, Mr. Seller, you got to think about the fact that if he gave up his money that easily, what kind of negotiator is he? He's not going to fight on your behalf. But that's telling them. Instead, set it up differently. So you didn't have to grind on him. Wow. So let's think about this together. If he just gives up his money that he potentially uses to feed his kids, right? How hard really do you think he will fight for you? You know, hasn't he just demonstrated that he's actually not a powerful negotiator? How do you think that might ultimately impact the net that goes in your pocket? Mm-hmm. Because I guess when we look at it, is it more important that there is a lower number on that listing agreement or a higher net in your pocket?
Right.
You know, so they really, and I'm going to be honest, as the clients here know listening, that one method might not work. So that's why they have to have 3 or 4 or 5 different ways to come back at that until they convince that seller.
Right. Well, what I like about what you said is that you're not emotionally connected to an outcome. You're just in inquiry. You're just asking questions like, gosh, you know, if he just offered to use his commission, man, and I would just go, man, I feel sorry for him. You know?
Well, what I have to say, Daniel, is, you know, sadly, there are a lot of desperate agents out there.
Yeah.
Because National Association of Realtors says the average agent sells like 3.4 homes a year. So I can get that would happen. And yet that's why it's really great that we're here today.
Yeah.
When they're good at what they do and they can show their stats, number of homes sold, but also list to sales price ratio.
Yes.
That they really do deliver, right? And one of our great commission objection handlers in our scripts is, you know, by the way, I know you realize this, Daniel, you're not writing me any check today.
Right.
Today, the commission is simply a marketing carrot. So you're incentivizing me to work overtime, bring all my tools and resources to the table, attract the best quality buyer agents. And when we deliver an offer, you're still the boss. If it's not what you want, you're not going to take it.
Right.
I even tell the agents, you know, we can't be ridiculous and say they're never going to take a cut, because sometimes they need to make a decision to do something. But if they have to do it, it's better off to do it at the table when they're negotiating an offer, when there's a bunch of parties involved, than up front, because then the seller will still get in their pocket later, right?
Yeah. Right. I love it. I think once you give a little, people, you know, the nibble, right? The nibble, they're going to take a little bit more and then a little bit more. And it's like, hey, would you throw in this from your commission? You're like, a good friend and client of ours also, he has, what I really appreciate is a them versus me, document. And he puts his
there.
Yeah. So he puts what my average sales price is, you know, how many days on the market, what his sellers rate him, how many homes he's sold in his career, how many years of experience. You know, what I love about this guy, and I think it's just a positioning document, right, that he uses at listings. But what I love about this guy is, you know, he's like, look, if you're a broker, then you trash everybody who came to the listing prior if they're an agent. And if you're an agent, then you say, look, brokers, they're not even involved in the business. They haven't listed or sold. You don't want a broker. You want an agent like me, you know, like, and so whatever your position is, you know, you're saying, look, they do this and I'm going to do this for you, and builds value, you know?
Well, a couple thoughts on that. One would be, that's why if the seller actually says they're interviewing, if they can find out who, right? So you can know your enemy, so to speak. So you're prepared. So if you have a massive team and I don't, I'm not going to go in and say, you know, you shouldn't list with Daniel because he's got a massive team, because I'm not going to trash the individual agent. But I can say, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you might interview a team, and yet I'm not a team. And here's a thought, you know, if you choose a team, here's some of the things that you could encounter that you may not enjoy.
Right.
You know, so I don't trash the person, but I think using that, and I don't like the old fashioned dare to compare where you got a list of all the things that you do and then they only do a few. They know that's a gimmick. But what you're talking about is data.
Yes.
That is proof. And I wouldn't just say, you know, Mr. Seller, I sell my listings at 103% of list price. We need to say compared to the average agent in the local market. So I think what you were talking about is critical, that comparison.
Yeah, cool. What we all know that time frame and motivation is usually, you know, like when do they need to sell and why is how you determine whether or not you go on a listing appointment. But
they're all going to go on every listing appointment. Okay, that's a different market cycle. Right now, they are going on every single appointment. But here's a thought too about that, and we do have to adjust that strategy. I mean, if we were in a market cycle where it was really tough to sell homes, many of us have lived through that. You got to be real careful what you're going out on. But right now, the sellers are often very reluctant to really open up and share their motivation. So it's being a little bit of a detective, asking some questions, putting the pieces together, and most likely they're going to go.
Right.
I think most every agent right now, it's going to be a rare appointment they're going to turn down.
Say no. Well, I mean, the challenge in our market and a lot of our clients, again, we've helped 4,000 clients, been around 10 years. So it's like a really cool stat, but everybody that I'm talking to is like, I would get twice as many listings if I could find them a home.
Right.
And that's the challenge. And that's why the motivation thing is like, but here's the question for you. And we talked about this a little bit. How do you get an because you're in the luxury world and you've done that for years. How do you get an unrealistic price? How do you handle that one? Because that's a major concern when you're selling a place and they're like, it's worth twice as much. What are your thoughts around that?
Well, and there's different strategies depending on the stratosphere of luxury, because when you go up into, like, you know, Ernie Carswell might take a 10, 11, $15 million listing, you do have to be cautious there because often the upfront spend is pretty intense, right?
Yes.
So that's a whole different thing we won't spend a lot of time on, but we do have luxury coaches to help them if they need that, because they need to determine their budget.
Right.
They need to look at, okay, what's the likelihood of me ever selling this property, right? But for the average property, you know, even to that upper tier, it's a little tough to nail the price right now, because sometimes you think it's too high and it sells right away, and sometimes you think it's fine and it sits on the market. So I think they need to be a little cautious going in and just stating a number. You know, as we go through the information with the seller, remember, they like to shoot the messenger. And again, remember, we're talking about today market strategies. Different market, you and I might be having a different conversation with them right now.
Right.
Today's market strategies, I would encourage them not to send pre-packages or beat up the seller before price is even discussed with dangers of overpricing. See, all the listing packages that companies create have those pages. Those pages are good for a different market, or pull them out, put them in your folder, use them if you need to. Don't beat them over the head. Because just think about it. If I walked into your house and we haven't even gone over data, and I'm starting to beat on you about dangers of overpricing,
right,
very defensive.
Right.
Now, the next thing that's going to annoy you is when I say, Daniel, let's look at the comps, the comparable homes to yours. The first thing you're going to say is, mine is better. You know, it's like saying, let's comp your children to the neighbor's children.
Yeah.
Then argue, and we've broken rapport. So they need to just talk about the data. Let's review the data that the buyers will be reviewing when they make a decision whether or not they're going to buy your home.
Right.
And after you review that data, ask the seller, based on the data, do you have a thought of where you were hoping to begin? And just listen. And then we encourage them to present the 3 pricing strategies. So strategy number 1. You know, Daniel, So I would say to you, I brought some marketing strategies today and pricing strategies. Let's talk through these and see what makes sense to you given your situation. Strategy number one, we price at where the data suggests.
Yeah.
The reason we do that is if you needed to move pretty quickly or we were concerned about appraisal, right? Either or. Strategy number two, very popular strategy. We price actually a bit below the data, hoping to create a frenzy, collecting offers a week or two later and pushing up the bids. Very effective.
Right.
Strategy number three, we call it the retail strategy. We price at the highest window level of where we think the price might be. And then if it doesn't respond, if the market doesn't respond, we might have to put the property on sale at some point by adjusting the price. So based on the data, your situation, of these three, which strategy do you feel makes the most sense? Now, see, what we've done now is we have engaged this seller who's already gone online and checked values. They already think they know.
They looked at Zillow.
They looked at Zillow. They're going to do exactly what we tell them anyhow. But now we're engaging, I call it tenderizing them.
Right.
And our agents who are out there using it say that what actually happens is that at this point is the seller usually turns to them and says,
what do you think?
what do you think?
Yeah.
Right? And even if they say a dumb strategy, like if you said, well, I want the retail strategy, which you probably would do, and you're moving and your wife is saying, hold on a minute, I'm going to be left here by myself with the kids to sell this home. Heck no, I want strategy number two.
Right.
See, they can still guide and suggest, but this going in and saying, this is where the price needs to be, it really costs them a lot of listings.
Yeah. Well, and I like what you're doing. You're being a consultant to the people and giving them options and then saying what would be best for you. I mean, that's ultimate.
Guide them. Then we can guide them, right?
Right. I love it. I think it's an either or close. It's a positive way to educate. I think you could even give them some data around both strategies that would be help them make the decision. When they say, look, I'd like strategy number two, then you could say, okay, let's pull some data on that strategy and see what's worked in this neighborhood and what the timeframes are around that. So I love that. You mentioned a seller pact, and I'd never heard that before. And I have, and so I'm really excited to dive into that with you. And again, guys, if you need help from Debbie, you can go to myoutdesk.com/Debbie. We're giving you the listing language 2.0. You're also going to get an opportunity to hang out with Debbie. She'll do a free strategy call. And if you guys need any help in the leverage side, we have this really cool text. I love doing this, where you can actually text mod VP to 555-888, and we'll send you this, right to your cell phone. So you don't have to jump on a website or anything. So mod VP Virtual Professional, and we'll send it right to you.
Awesome. I love that idea. I gotta borrow that from you.
Oh, watch out. All right. We're also gonna send Debbie.
Yeah, send it to Debbie.
Yeah, exactly.
So the seller's pact, all right, they'll all know as soon as we say it, they're gonna know it. When sellers know that you're coming over to talk about listing their home, one of the things that most of them do is they make a deal.
Right.
So they say, okay, honey, now, no matter what happens tonight, we're not signing a thing.
Right.
That's the seller's pact. But now you get there and you're super professional. You do a fabulous job. They like you, but they've got that hanging out there and they don't have a minute together to break the pact, right? So if my husband and I were actually, interviewing you to list our house,
yeah,
that high D personality would go, good, do it, yeah. And my husband's high C would be like, no. So he'd tell me, don't you dare sign anything, right?
Right.
At some point in that appointment, you said, guys, I want to do something. I'm going to go. I'd like to take one more. Now that we've reviewed marketing strategies, let me take one more walk around the home, just by myself before we go to the pricing portion. I just want to look at a couple of things, or I'd like to go back and just take one more walk through the backyard again. And I'll give you guys a moment, because then maybe you'll talk and have some other questions for me. Then I'll be right back. And you don't wait for them to say, okay, you just get up and go. And then you come back to the table, because that gives them a moment to go, yeah, I like him. Yeah, I really think he can get it done. Well, I'd be saying to my husband, I really don't have time to interview more people. Could we just go ahead and get this done tonight?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Now you come back to the table, pick right up, and go to the contract, which, by the way, please take the contract with you.
Right.
Oh, but I like to DocuSign it later. Stop it. DocuSign it later too, if you want to.
Right.
I am shocked by the amount of agents who are telling me they're not going in there prepared to list the home.
Right.
And they miss their window.
Well, here's what's happening, Debbie. This is an easy fix. They don't have administrative or operational help.
Right.
And that's what's happening, because, I've sold hundreds of homes in an annual time frame. And it wasn't because I was the one doing the paperwork. Like, every single situation, you guys should have virtual professionals doing your listing package, pulling your comms, getting your contracts ready, making sure your marketing stuff's on point and individualized to that listing. I mean, all of that is not dollar productive activity. So if you're not pounding the phones, if you're not going to events, if you're not having client events, if you're not setting up marketing campaigns, like, those things cause revenue. But everything else should be done by our company or your own internal staff. And if you can't do that, then, I think you're not going to get as many listings.
Well, because they're so crazy busy, and they're running into that appointment at the last minute, and it's kind of thrown together, and they didn't have time. Sometimes they're just afraid to close too, which we often help people with. But yeah, a lot of it is just that organizational piece, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Well, and if you get, I'm wildly enough, if you get, because I had to coach a lot of agents in my office, right? And I, like you said, they wouldn't close, and I'm like, why didn't you just ask? Like, why didn't you ask in the beginning, middle, and end? Like, always just ask the entire process. Does this sound good to you? It really does. Would you like to get going? I mean, we could get this thing on the market this week. What do you think? Like that question, and then just being silent.
Right. So the best question of all that I love the most.
Yeah.
Mr. and Mrs. Seller, when would you like your home sold to the right buyer? Because, see, they don't love getting it on the market, because that's so stressful, right?
It's work.
And all the work that goes into it. I hate it when agents say, do you have any other questions? Because that's really open-ended at that point. Or, what do you think? You want to choose me? No, doesn't sound very powerful. But Mr. and Mrs. Seller, may I ask, when would you like your home sold to the right buyer? And then based on what they say, finding a very real way to create a sense of urgency.
Yep.
Well, we're in no hurry. That's perfect. That's exactly why then we should go ahead and get a strong game plan set. Let's get the home on the market. And then we have the time through a terrific season of the year to really take our time to find that right buyer and close in a time frame that's good for you. So, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, let's just review a little bit about what we've covered so far. The price we've agreed upon, we've got that here. Home warranty. You also mentioned you don't want to leave the chandelier. I wrote that in. And now all I need is I just need you right here for me. And hand them the pen.
Yeah.
They don't hand them the pen. Hand them the pen. And then, like you said, stop talking. Just wait. Smile. Yeah. I read once that the only high pressure close that's really okay to use is silence. Right?
Oh.
Hand them the pen, be quiet, let them process, let there be a little tension in the air, just learn to be still, right? Be
right.
Right. And then if they won't sign, now we've got to be prepared. Where do we take this next? And I don't think it should be sign the contract. It should be probing and, again, consulting.
Right.
and what's in the way and what's holding them back. So yeah, it's an art, right? It's an
Well,
art.
and I think that's exactly, I want to make sure that people on this hear that. Then you're asking questions. Well, what's stopping you? What's holding you back? What would have to happen? Yeah, good. Well, Debbie, I love that you're here with us. This has been amazing. I know our joined audience is going to appreciate this. It's like a little refresher to get ready for the summer and the spring selling season. So I think it's great. I personally, if you don't currently have 3 to 5 major business sources of generating listings that is going to get to you to your goal, like that's what I heard out of all of this, right? So if you're in a space that you don't, I really suggest you go to our website and Debbie's. We've got that in the notes where you can request a free consultation. She's only done 70,000 coaching calls. That's it. No big deal. You probably haven't mastered this job, right? No.
I actually think maybe I have. Finally, because what is it they say, 10,000 hours?
Yeah.
Or 1,000 hours? I don't know. I've blown past that, but no, I love it. It's fabulous. Every day every agent is a new puzzle. Every situation, we coach agents, brokers, mortgage, title, escrow. So yeah, we love it, and we get a chance to work with some of the best, like you guys, and your fabulous team. Super fun.
And shameless, I don't know, sell, post, whatever. Text this. We're going to give you the free Listings 2.0 scripts. We're going to set you up with a strategy call for Debbie. And Debbie, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. Guys, I hope this has been enjoyable. Brandon, thanks for your questions. You're awesome. Until next time, Debbie.
All right. Talk to you soon, Daniel. Bye-bye.